Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. Right, today we're going to look at every Premier League club's most criticised player, be it in the media, by the fans or by us at HITC, and I've given myself the unenviable task of defending them. Christ, I'm not looking forward to the Kepa segment. The defence will be worse than Man United literally giving Demba Ba the freedom of Turkey. Arsenal, SHKODRAN, MUSTAFI. Christ, I already regret this. The only time you say SHKODRAN, MUSTAFI and defend in the same sentence if it says SHKODRAN, MUSTAFI wasn't very good at defending today. Right, this needs to stop. The constant battering of SHKODRAN, MUSTAFI is getting out of hand. Sure, the German defender hasn't been quite as good as expected. When Arsenal signed him, I thought he was going to be the presence they needed to fix their defence. Fast forward 4 years and Arsenal are still splashing out big money to fix the problem. While MUSTAFI is capable of big mistakes, he's actually one of many players who's improved under Arteta, despite Gary Neville describing him as uncoachable. At the end of the day, he's an average defender who's got a mistake in him, but it's not like he's the only player to drop a clanger during the late Wenger and Emery era. Aston Villa, Trezeguet. The winger seems to be a polarising character, with many Villa fans criticising his lack of goals or assists, even if he did pretty much keep them up last year with that winner against Arsenal. But while his attacking credentials are disputed, defensively he's been great, and that can't be understated. A defensive winger can make an average fullback look great, and when you look at Villa, they've already got attacking talent elsewhere, meaning Trezeguet's role in front of Matty Cash shouldn't be downplayed. Brighton, Neal Maupay. Fans of other clubs must hate Neal Maupay, and when you watch him play, it's easy to see why. He's that annoying kid at school who thinks he's classy, hangs around with the cool kids, but even they don't like him. That's how annoying he is. For a pint-sized striker, he loves the rough and tumble, he flies into tackles, he throws himself around, and if there's an argument, he runs over like he's Usain Piss and Bolt. We've seen incidents with Ezri Konsa, Bernd Leno, Guendouzi, and now he's been dropped by Brighton because of his inflated ego. Sure, those incidents will wind you up, but he's got an edge that no one else at Brighton's got. They're just a nice bunch of lads. I mean, Tariq Lamptey's never going to say boo to a goose. He'd probably hand you a packet of crisps and wish you luck for the rest of the season. Maupay's been a great signing for Brighton, and his goals prove it. Maybe he's just got little man syndrome, who knows. Burnley, Ashley Barnes. I really dislike Ashley Barnes, I'm not going to hide it, but he is a good player, and I dislike him just because of the way he can dominate defenders with his power and savviness. He's a brutal forward and can get change out of the best centre-backs around, and he's the kind of intimidating presence you'd hate to be up against. He's a shithouse, but I'm sure Burnley fans love him for that exact reason. Chelsea, Kepa. Right, here we go. Don't know how I'm going to get through this, but let's go. Leave Kepa alone. The poor lad's been through enough, and it's over now. Chelsea have signed someone else, he's doing really well, so there's no need to dig out Kepa at any opportunity. Yes, his Chelsea career has been pretty woeful, and the pressure has mounted, the mistakes have gone up, but he's still a young goalkeeper, and the price Chelsea paid is just quite frankly ridiculous. Kepa's been highly touted from a young age, but he only played 2 seasons at Bilbao before joining Chelsea, so the fact they paid €80 million was ridiculous. It was a panic, they needed someone after Courtois left, they saw Kepa, they jumped in with his release clause, and the rest is history. But he's only 26, he can still improve, he can get out of this rough patch, and he can still be a top goalkeeper. And in defence of that cup final fiasco with Caballero, maybe Kepa just thought he felt fine, so he didn't need to be replaced. He didn't want Sarri to waste a sub, and I'm sure he didn't know that Caballero was a penalty expert. I highly doubt he watched the 2016 League Cup final. He was probably watching Spanish Friends on Netflix, or Compadres as it's better known. Crystal Palace, Jordan Ayew. To be fair, I think I'm the only person that criticises Jordan Ayew, and I've been harsh, because the Palace forward has scored a fair few goals in recent years, in a Palace team that isn't best known for its attacking. And he scored some great goals too. That solo strike against West Ham was incredible. I think Ayew's just one of those unassuming players, particularly at Swansea and Villa, so it baffled me that he kept getting Premier League moves, but he's proved people wrong at Palace, and by people, I mean me. Everton, Jordan Pickford. The most hated man on the red side of Liverpool right now, Jordan Pickford's reputation was already in the gutter before he performed a claymore that Drew McIntyre would have been proud of on Virgil van Dijk. Pickford's recklessness has ended the Dutchman's season as another blemish on the Sunderland Academy product's career decline. But let's go back to 2018, the sun was shining, there was no pandemic, Dua Lipa's latest pop banger was playing, beers were being thrown, and England were going to the World Cup semis, and a large part of that was Jordan Pickford. He made big saves and he exuded confidence throughout the team. Over the past 2 years that confidence is gone. Everything he does looks like an accident waiting to happen, but it's just a bad spell. He's not done as a goalkeeper. He can get out of this rush and he can continue to be England's number 1. Fulham, Dennis Odoi. Okay, Dennis Odoi probably isn't good enough to be in the Premier League. He was naffed the first time when he played centre back because of a lack of pace, and this time he's had to play right back where he's so limited it hurts. But overall, Fulham aren't a great team. They've got championship players who've been dragged to the top flight by Mitrovic's goals once again, and the likes of Odoi are just here for the ride, enjoying the final few years of their career, going to top stadiums and playing against top players. I mean, he's 32, he spent most of his career in Belgium. It's not like when Fulham signed Schürrle or Seri. Odoi was brought in for the championship, and that's just where he plays his best football. There's no shame in that. Leeds United, Patrick Bamford. At the time of recording, Patrick Bamford has scored 6 Premier League goals in 6 Premier League games. That's 6 more than I and probably most of you thought he'd get in the top flight. Bamford was battered at the hills and back last season. He missed so many big chances it almost wasn't funny, especially when Leeds were finally looking to end their spell out of the top flight for good. Bamford was getting pelters from everywhere, and the abuse continued over the summer before he'd even kicked a Premier League ball. I mean, he'd only ever scored 1 top flight goal, so you could see why, but he's proven everyone wrong, and not only is he scoring goals, he's scoring some absolute crackers. 2020's been a wild ride, but the most shocker thing has to be Paddy Bamford's success in the top flight. Leicester City, AYOZE PEREZ. He's just not as good as he was at Newcastle, is he? And even at St James's he got a lot of flack for his performances. He's a streaky player. If he can get on a run he's fantastic, but when he's not, you're going to struggle. At Newcastle he did a lot of pressing and work off the ball, which probably isn't as important at Leicester, so maybe just be a case that he doesn't suit Brendan Rodgers' team. And anyway, it's not like they're struggling during his barren run of form. Liverpool, Mo Salah. One of the best players in the Premier League has been in the headlines a lot over the past few days for his part in the penalty Liverpool got in victory over West Ham. And it's been a consistent theme over the past few years, with Mo Salah going down a bit too easily to win himself a penalty. But let's look at the West Ham one. SAWYERS literally kicked him in the foot, and the boots are so paper thin nowadays it probably really hurt. And the annoying thing is, the only way you're going to get a penalty is if you go to ground. Sure, he maybe could not hurl himself and throw his arms in the air like he's on Strictly, but I still think it was a penalty. Going to ground is sadly a part of the game today. Literally every player does it. Defenders do it every week just to get themselves out of bother, and there's really no way you can stop it. So at the end of the day, Mo Salah's just like everyone else. He's just a lot better at football. Manchester City, John Stones. I like John Stones, and I think a lot of the flack he gets is unfair. He's never going to be your main commanding centre-back, he's just not built that way. But alongside someone like that, he can thrive. But at City, there's just never been that consistency. Most of the time he was having to play alongside Nicolas Otamendi, and it was just a matter of time before one of them dropped a clanger. Stones can be a top defender, and he can play the way Pep wants him to. He just needs a bit more protection around him. Unfortunately for him, I don't think he'll ever be Man City's first choice centre-back ever again. Manchester United, Paul Pogba. I mean, I could have picked anyone for Man United here. The media hate Mason Greenwood for some reason, the Twitter trolls bash Fernandes, Harry Maguire's felt the wrath of the authorities and the fans, he gets defended even though he's been slower than a tractor on a motorway. Even Marcus Rashford, he's been criticised by people for not wanting kids to go hungry, with some gammon idiots believing it's his fault, not the government's. But the most criticised, the most talked about, the most controversial has to be Paul Pogba. One slack pass and Graham Souness is on him quicker than a chubby kid running down the street when he hears the ice cream van. Then on the flip side you've got the Pogba defenders, the man who will back him to the hills, probably just in spite of the haters. But let's break it down. Paul Pogba is a top class player who can do sensational things, but needs players around him to get the best out of him. That's why he was so good at Juventus. Solskjaer's answer was just pushing him on the left wing. I mean, that's not helping anyone, is it? At this point in time, you kind of just want Man United to sell Pogba so he can prove himself elsewhere, and Graham Souness can find someone else to blame for his troubles. Newcastle United, JOELINTON. Ever since he joined Newcastle for 40 million quid and got the number 9 shirt, things have gone downhill for JOELINTON. He's the club's record signing who doesn't score goals, despite getting the shirt that was once worn by the likes of Alan Shearer. It shouldn't be a big deal. Maybe if JOELINTON was number 33, no one would care as much, but he just isn't a striker. He doesn't want to score goals like Callum Wilson does, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player. JOELINTON's best games in a Newcastle shirt have came from out wide or up top behind the striker, and that's where he needs to be. He spent 12 months as Newcastle's main striker, where anyone would have struggled to score goals. He can still be a good player, just not the £40 million striker Newcastle thought they'd got. Sheffield United, Aaron Ramsdale. This guy just isn't as good as Dean Henderson, and that's why he's received a lot of flack. He's not covered himself in glory, and the fee doesn't help either. But go back to last season, Aaron Ramsdale's saves were a big reason why Bournemouth didn't go down earlier than they did. Sheffield United as a whole aren't playing well, but as they improve, I'm sure Ramsdale will too. Or at least he better, he's in my bloody fantasy team. Southampton, Che Adams. Okay, the criticism of Che Adams has died down this season as the Saints forward has actually started to score goals, and his partnership with Danny Ings is growing week by week. Well, until Danny Ings got injured against Villa. But Che Adams is getting better and better, and proving the doubters, including myself, very, very wrong. Tottenham, Dele Alli. When Jose Mourinho arrived, Dele Alli was the talk of the town. Nowadays he's getting the Luke Shaw treatment from the boss. Alli should have left Spurs, and Mourinho seems to have no interest in playing him, and would rather dig him out in the press or on Amazon Prime. If I were you, Dele, I'd just watch the new Borat. But the midfielder's a great player and someone who knows how to score goals. He's only 24 and he's already got 50 Premier League goals. That can't be understated. If he doesn't suit Mourinho's system then fair enough, but by no means is he just suddenly a bad player. West Brom, Romaine Sawyers. Baggies fans were giving Romaine Sawyers a lot of stick after the defeat to Fulham. It just seems like he isn't cut out to be a Premier League midfielder. but to his credit he had been great in the Championship and played an important role in promotion. Back then he was the metronome, the focal point in midfield who kept the ball moving. The issue is now he can't do that in the Premier League. He's up against Man City instead of Birmingham City. So he's struggling, but his efforts in the Championship shouldn't be forgotten just like that. You'll need him next season when you're back down there. West Ham Sebastien Haller. Sebastien Haller has proved that you can't just pluck a player out of one team and expect to do the same job in another. Frankfurt were an attacking team, with Haller playing up top alongside Rebic and Jovic. Nowadays he's at West Ham who barely get out their own half, and when they do they've got Robert Snodgrass and Jared Bowen providing support. Sure, Haller hasn't done well, but really, did he ever have a chance? Unless West Ham start playing the West Ham way, he's always going to struggle. Wolves ADAMA Traore. I used to absolutely hammer ADAMA Traore, and people still do to a certain extent for his end product, but this guy's come so far from the days when he was at Aston Villa and all he could do was run lengths of the pitch as if it was a swimming pool. Adama's a machine and a man whose career is only going to get better, but let's be honest, is there any Wolves player that gets criticised? Everyone seems to love literally every little single thing they do. So there we have it, I've defended each club's most criticised player to the best of my ability. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to HITC Sport, and until next time we will see you around.